brain. Welcome into his frequency. Enter at your own risk. Come be at peace with me. Ask the Paul, where we rise and don't fall.
Welcome back to another episode of Baxter's Buzz. I am your host, Baxter E. Hall. Welcome to my brain. Welcome to my frequency. Enter at your own risk. Now, today I have a special guest with me. She is an expert fund developer. She's a lead advisor with Mondo Unlimited and senior director at Avalon Healing Center. Mivida Burrus, welcome to Baxter's Buzz.
Thank you, Baxter. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share space with you again.
It's always a pleasure. Anyone who knows me knows that I bring my folks on to the podcast who I learn from, I glean so much knowledge from, and I want to make sure that other folks can maybe get some of these nuggets. So it's always a pleasure chatting with you. Today we just have, we're recording this conversation and hopefully it benefits some folks.
Yes. And I love to talk, so.
Yes.
I'll give them everything I got.
I know you will. So first, Mondo Unlimited, talk about what that org and sort of your role within that organization.
So Mondo Unlimited started with a young lady, Trish DeWalt. Trish was working in the space of fund development in this world and realized that it was a little male dominated, right? The big consulting companies typically was ran by a man. And she said, I'm going to do something about that. And she started consulting with a small group of people, woke up one morning, called me and said, I need your help. And I was like, okay. And she's like, I want to give you a couple clients and, see, would you love to join me in this venture? And I was like, bet, and we're going to make some money. Yes. Yeah. And from there, Mondo Unlimited started with 3 people. We are now at 7. We are a full consulting team. We help small to medium to large nonprofits maximize their mission. We also do C-suite acquisition. So we do talent searches for C-suite roles. And, you'll see us around town. We've done big companies and we've done very small nonprofits. And we also do strategy and education and support people in this work when they can't really afford to hire a Mivida, they have me as a consultant. Yeah. And then I work at Avalon, and here we do sexual assault and anti-human trafficking work. So I've been in this game for about 15 years, and I love what I do because I love to see people grow, thrive, and be their best selves. So I love fund development.
Yeah.
I love it. And I get to connect with people like you.
Yes.
In the world.
Yeah, we were talking about that kind of off air, how we shared these circles for years and just really formally met, relatively speaking, recently, right? And so, but Avalon Healing Center, talk a bit more, if you would, about the mission and sort of the story behind how Avalon Healing Center was created.
So Avalon started with our president, Kimberly Hurst. She's a physician's assistant. So she was working in a hospital here in Detroit, and was her very first case was a survivor of sexual assault. Kim didn't know how to do a rape kit. That's what we call them, a rape kit. She didn't know how to do the exam. And so that sparked within her to learn more about how to support individuals who, have been assaulted in a very, violent, very intimate way. She started working in Oakland County with a local organization and realized that they were providing all these services to individuals in Oakland County for free. but she worked in Detroit. Her full-time job was in Detroit, and she was like, I got to stop this. So she birthed out of with a small group of her friends what we then called Wayne County SAFE, Sexual Assault Forensic Examiners. That was almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
So we've been in existence for over 20 years with the name Wayne County SAFE. Today, we've grown into a much larger organization. We provide all the comprehensive services for people. So therapies and follow-up care, strangulation, IPV, like we are a well-rounded wraparound service for individuals who experience assault. Coupled with that, we also do work in the anti-human trafficking space. So we go out and we do street outreach and mobile outreach. We work with local clinics to ensure that individuals have the support that they need after assault. And it doesn't matter if the assault happened today or 20,000 years ago, we will still see you and we will still serve you, all free of charge. So we've had about 25,000 individuals come through our doors in this 20-year span, and we see about 700 to 800 new cases each year.
Wow.
Our youngest patient was 2 weeks old. Our oldest patient was 101.
Wow.
And you know, now we're Avalon. We changed the name during COVID to Avalon Healing Center because that's exactly what we are. We do forensic exams, but our hope is that you're healed while you're here.
Wow. Wow. Well, yeah, just such important work, and it's unfortunate that it's so needed.
Yes.
But it absolutely is, and just kudos to Kimberly for the idea, and sort of acting on it, and to the entire Avalon team for the work that you do each and every day.
Thank you. We appreciate that because it is hard. I don't personally do direct service, so I'm not in the case, if you will. I'm not there, but to see the transformation of individuals. We just had a mission moment where a young lady came to us and she was non-vocal. She would not speak. But working with our team, working with the counselors, having her own personal advocate and case manager, she's now bubbly and lively and vibrant and participating in our groups and in our therapies. And that has been relatively in 6 months, right? So the healing is happening. It really is. I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, just a 180.
Yeah. Yeah. The so many of the victims, and I'm sure it's in every country, but just here, they can be marginalized, sort of disregarded and dismissed. For someone to see them and to want to help them and understand, not questioning their stories, not blaming them for what happened to them, and then working to provide those additional resources, because it's not just a physical piece, right? There's a mental aspect that could be just as bad, or if not worse.
And with that, you know, and I'm glad you brought that up because we are trauma informed. We all have gone through, everybody in this building has gone through trauma informed training. And trauma shows up differently, right? So we do work with law enforcement. We do train them. We do work with the prosecutor's office. Our organization is the organization that helped with that rape kit, those found rape kits that were in the warehouse, over 11,000 rape kits that were not submitted nor tested. We're that group who handled that in 2008-9. And we have been educating people that trauma isn't linear. It happened and then you grow and you heal. You can be sitting somewhere in your car, you could be driving and something triggers.
Yeah.
And then you have to deal with that. You have to unpack it. And in our work, we honestly, truly believe that, you know, a survivor can tell their story better. I can't translate for you what feels good for you. And if what you're receiving doesn't, then we modify,
Yeah.
right? I can't tell you this is the method and this is the way it should be done. I can't say that, right? I have to give you all of the things, which is why we have so many healing modalities here. We have massage therapy, Tai Chi, group, yoga, sound bowl. We have it all, and traditional therapy, because you know what works for you.
Right, right. It also goes back to being seen, patients being seen and not
believed and heard. You are
yes,
absolutely
and not sort of fit into this box, right? Because it all shows up differently, and people respond to it differently. And you need different modalities to allow folks to heal. So, no,
and what works
kudos.
today might not work tomorrow, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's why we offer it all. And again, free of charge. So we do lift, we get them here and home, because again, it could be driving is a thing for you.
Yeah.
So we do everything we can to make sure that individuals get the service and the support they need.
Yeah.
And we're right here in the heart of the city. Like, we're right across from DTE, MGM Grand, DPD. We're right here. And our doors are open.
Yeah.
24/7.
Well, again, just salute to the entire team for the work that you do.
And I'll share that with them.
Incredibly important. Incredibly important. We are recording this in February, which is Black History Month. And I always like to remind folks that Black history is American history. There are times where I'll have these conversations and we'll sort of highlight individuals and their contributions, but we decided we wanted to just talk about the theme of Black history and sort of what that means to us, right? Yeah. So when you think about Black history, all of the contributors of Black history that have helped create and build on this country, like, what are some of the things that come to mind for you, Mivida?
Well, when we talked about it, and I went through and I was like, well, let me find like this woman to highlight, and let me find this person that's just standing out, and I went through, Medgar Evers, and then I looked at Martin Luther King Jr., and then I was like Fannie Lou Hamer, and I was like, wait, I can't choose a person that stands above or beyond anybody else, because we did it collectively. We did it in our time frames. We did it. We're still doing it, but we did it to ensure that Baxter and Mivida was still here, right? And I thought about the women of our history, right? And I said, I can't pick a woman that just stands above, because Harriet Tubman risked her life how many times to get us from slavery to freedom? Fannie Lou Hamer lost her life, right? Trying to get just to be able to vote, get voting rights for her people. Nikki Giovanni wrote about it. Angela Davis was jailed for it. Like, and I thought about the strength of the Black, right? The resilience, the nurturing, the love, the embodiment, the protection. And not that our men couldn't protect us, but the separation, that heartbreak that they had to endure. You got a man, you have some kids, and they take them. All the things that the women had to endure, unprotected or unrespected or unbelieved. And, I looked at Malcolm's statement, and he was like, the most unprotected woman is a Black woman. And then Common says the most disrespected woman in America is a Black woman. And I was like, I can't pick one, because at this point in our lives, in this time right now, we're all holding it together. We're all using our voices. We did that. We've done that. I think about my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, what they endured for me to stay here. My grandfather, mother's father, was born in 1898.
Mm.
His parents were slaves.
Mm.
They endured that so I could sit here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Black history, as you said, is our history. And it's not a woe is me, it's strength.
Yes.
We're here because we're strong.
Yes.
We're here because we believe and we hope for our children.
Yeah.
I want to see my grandchildren do amazing things.
Yeah.
I want to see our children do amazing things. And the thing of it is that we have to understand who we are and teach that. We have had a disconnect from our past to today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's our fault. It really is our fault. I think about talking to my granddaughter, and we live in an affluent, area. And I'm like, am I teaching her enough about who we are?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's that strength.
Yeah. It's interesting. You want to, and I think all folks, all backgrounds can relate to wanting to just be in a better position, to put your children in a better position that you grew up in. But as a Black American, it's a unique history. And we have this very interesting history with America, the country that we built.
Yeah.
And if you left it up to a lot of the schools and the things that you see on TV, it was like slavery, Harriet Tubman,
Martin Luther King,
like literally like from there to there, right?
Yep.
And it's so much more than that. And we were so much more than that and have always been. But the education in the schools has typically been insufficient. And whether it's intentional or unintentional, that's another point that you can argue, but inefficient nonetheless, right? Yeah, and then the other piece is, when I have young children, I want to let them know about the past and how things are perceived, but you also don't want to take away their innocence. And so you try trying to figure out how to walk that line between how do I make them aware of things when they're so oblivious and so happy about life, but at some point there's gonna be some real reality that's gonna like kind of smack them in the face should I do it?
Well, it's not a doing, right? Because it is natural, right? We go through that age of innocence, and then we wake up one day, I don't care who we are, and go, oh gosh, wait a minute. Oh, whoa, hold on. I think it is our job to share the stories of our people. My mom is 88. She sent the entire family chat the list of Black inventors. Teach there.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the muddy or the bloody. It has to be, this is who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is really who you are.
Yeah.
Because the country that we built, we were innovative.
That's right.
How do I pick cotton faster? How do I clean it faster? Cotton gin. How do I do this? How do I do that?
Yeah.
How do I do this so that I am not tied up? We thought of ways to make our lives easier with nothing.
Yeah.
And I'll go back to Egypt. We made bricks out of hay and straw. And then when they wouldn't give us that, we found a way to do it still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because we are survivors.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Our DNA tells us this is how you rise above. And I'm not claiming genius on any of us, but the innovation and the inventions, the stoplight, the thing, the light bulb. Come on, we can say Thomas Edison all day long, but we know it was a Black guy in that place, in that factory, in that laboratory with him, helping him work through these things.
Yeah.
And to take that information and share and show with your children.
Yeah.
It is not the school's responsibility. It is Baxter and Mivida's responsibility. We have to teach.
Yeah.
And
No,
when I think about our family, there are traditions and histories that we pass down, right? Teach that.
yes. You're absolutely right. I was talking to a gentleman this week, and he's from New York, but has lived here for years now. And we were talking about some of different parts of the city, and I was telling him where I grew up,
Mm-hmm.
which is, we call it the township, Royal Oak Township, the 8 Mile, Wyoming
Uh-huh.
area.
Uh-huh.
And he he said, I have a friend from there. He says, I know exactly where that is. He says people confuse it with the Royal Oak. He was just very knowledgeable of
Yeah.
it. And he said, that's great history. You need to write this stuff down, and then they need to share it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's something that simple, you know, it's a plot of land that nobody else wanted. And that's why
Yeah.
it's sitting in between Ferndale and Oak Park, but we made it work, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not necessarily a who invented, who did it. It's not, most of this stuff was collaborative, but the
Yeah.
problem is when they write us out of it, that we don't feel the connection and the
Do it
accomplishment that
anymore.
we should.
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and so we have to make those things, bring them to light for our children so they can feel that sense of pride that
Mm-hmm.
they were
Mm-hmm.
huge contributors
Right.
to this country and the things that they need to see themselves in
Right.
the fabric of this country, right?
Of this country. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I say it's important to get that list. You're an author and a writer, and to write a great book is some kind of research or some kind of went into it. There's a lived experience, something that you share on that page, and it goes on and on and on. And what we have to do is preserve at this moment, preserve those stories,
Yes.
right? Because we don't want to fall into we fail to remember our past because they've erased it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I also feel like this, and this may be just a little tangent, if you will. The other part is we have come into these spaces and places where we've quote unquote made it. And we don't collaborate and connect with other people the way we used to,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether it was through church or through a community group, things have gotten so um bourgeoisie, if you will,
Yeah.
right? We have, and I'm not picking on any group, but you have your Jack and Jills. You gotta fill out a form. You gotta pay $1 million. So you have your debutante stuff. And when our kids were growing up, it wasn't like that. When I grew up, we were at Boys and Girls Club. We were at the community center. We had community. We knew each other.
Yeah.
We knew who we could trust. We knew who we couldn't trust. We knew what to do. We knew this person's mama. We knew all of this. Today, there are very few people in my neighborhood that I could connect my grandchild to.
Yeah.
That's why it's important for me to go home.
Yeah.
So she goes home and she knows the aunties and she knows the cousins and she knows the stories and she hears the stories and we retell the stories and we talk about that time Susie tied her bike to the post and we talk about those things because those are our history.
Yeah.
That is our real history, our real lived history. And writing it down,
Yeah.
right? Writing it down.
Yeah.
My mother started, God bless her soul, started the ancestry piece. It's a lot to do. And I was, Mama, that's a lot of work. But she wants us to remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
She wants that. She was like, it's not for me, it's for y'all. It's
Yeah.
not, I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for y'all. So that's why I'm saying connecting with one another.
Yeah.
We're not crabs in a barrel. I denounce that.
Yeah.
What they say, I rebuke that. We're not. We are collaborative and connective, which is why we can look at each other across the room and go, mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
You won't say less.
you are absolutely right. And that's what, and I love the fact that you said it's our responsibility.
Our responsibility.
There's a lot of forces that we feel. I mean, it's real stuff that may be pulling us away from or trying to erase things. But ultimately, we have to own that. And to your point, not just teach about the history that we can Google, but also let them know who their parents and great grandparents were, because we've all contributed to help us get to this point we are at this very moment.
Yep. And you know, my grandparents on my mom's side, my grandmother had 9 children. My grandfather worked. They came up from Toledo to work in the Fort Wayne Assembly when it was first built. Bought, you know, when he could, a small home, but you got 9 kids in a 3-bedroom. And he's working at Crowley's and Jacobson's. Now, these are old stores. They used to be in Dearborn that were whites only, as an elevator operator or a stock boy or whatever. My grandfather was 40 years old and they called him a boy. My grandmother could not shop where my granddaddy worked. So we talk about that. So in my grandmother's spirit,
how long ago, Mivida?
This was 60s, 50s, 60s. They migrated up here. My grandmother was born in 1970. Yes, he was older than her. Yeah, way older. It was that color purple situation where he's like, I gotta take the old sister. I gotta take the oldest one. Let me look at her again. But he loved my grandmother. He loved my grandmother. 9 kids, he loved my grandmother, and she loved him, you know, and took care of him. But they moved here in 37 before my mom was born. My mom was born in 1937. So they moved here, and he started working for the Wayne Assembly. And he worked as they had more kids, he worked those jobs. And it had to be in the 50s, 60s. She could not work. She could not go into those stores in Dearborn, which were Jewish stores.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked is because it wasn't that long ago.
It was not.
And
it was not.
You know, my kids make fun of me because Google wasn't invented when I was born.
Internet wasn't when I was
born. Right. And it feels like their lives are, the only thing that matters to them, right? And their era and kind of what's happening right now. You talk about the 60s, 50s, and 60s are not that long ago. And we're not far removed from that. And we have to acknowledge that there's still some remnants, a lot of remnants of sort of that, the way that society sort of viewed us. And we don't want to live there and stay there. But there's an importance of being aware of the progress that's been made and the sacrifices that were made by those that came before us, right?
Yeah. And it's us taking agency over ourselves, right? It is a space, it honestly is a space of, you have options. Now, we purchase everything else in the world. We go run to Amazon quickly. But what would it hurt for me to go down here to the Source bookstore? Right? Black owned.
Yeah.
What would it hurt for me not to, go to a certain establishment when I know my sister got it? Now, it might cost me a little bit more because she's not getting bulk volume, but she's getting business.
Yeah.
And that's where we have to start teaching our children to look to us, look to ourselves. But again, recounting those stories, I share with my granddaughter all the time. I was like, I was like, oh, I wish you had met your great grandma. My grandmother sold donuts out the kitchen for a nickel to the kids walking past the school to help raise money for her family, right? She thought of it. She couldn't go to work with 9 kids, so she had to figure out a way to help where she could. My grandmother was a smart cookie. She knew how to bake and cook, and she put that in us, right? She taught us that, not to be, a subservient because her and my granddaddy, if they fought, because I lived with them for a while, if they fought, they didn't fight in front of us. They had their conversations. They did what they needed to do. But she took care of the bills. She took care of the house. She made sure things were taken care of, and he took care of her.
Yeah.
My grandmother traveled. My grandmother was sharp. He'd bring home dresses. Like, here, you can't walk in and bad, but I got you a dress, right? So it is us teaching our children about our parents, about our grandparents. But I'm going to start here. We got to heal enough to have that.
That's right.
Because I think back, and Mama, if you're saying this, I do love you. But I think back to the way I was raised versus the way I raised my children.
Sure.
My mother was a strict disciplinarian. Strict. Don't go off the porch. Don't do this. Very strict. I was very loose with my children, right? And I talk about my grandmother more because my grandmother was that granny, right? She was the nice one. She would get away with everything over there. But she taught us. My mother said she didn't teach them. She disciplined them. So it's it's that cycle we go through. And I would hope that my granddaughter gets teaching from me while her mother has to train her.
Yeah.
So I teach, she trains. So that's the stories we tell. Because my grandmother was a teacher, my mother was the trainer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't do
both,
this. You don't.
And both roles are
both
important.
Are important. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, both roles are important.
And that's why when you have those fractured relationships, and I'm just gonna share my story, I'm gonna talk about me. When I got to a certain age in my life, I apologized to my children. And I apologized to my children because there were areas where I was not mature enough. I was your mother, but I had some insecurities and some spaces where I might have not did the right thing for you at the right time, right? And I had to be honest about that because I may have disciplined when I should have taught. And I knew the difference, right? And talking to them now, they like, Ma, you apologize. And I was like, I had to because I want you to be healed and whole.
Yeah.
I don't want you not to come over for Thanksgiving because your mama is, I don't want those disconnects. I want you always to be connected to me and this house.
Yeah.
And if I have to apologize, and sometimes parents, we got to apologize.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes for the tone, because I'm going to just say this, 99% I'll be right. But for the tone and the delivery and the way things come across, and hear that hard feedback.
Yeah.
It hurts sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's how you continue to bridge those gaps. And when we are a healed people, baby, because a lot of things we see is our insecurity popping out. And trust me, I did the work and I didn't walk through it. It's those insecurities popping out.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's why we don't trust.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a good way to sort of in this conversation is we all have history. We all are contributors of American history and Black history. And as we share Martin Luther King's story or Malcolm X's story, we need to share our own stories with our young folks because they need to know the lineage in which they come from. And it's not a perfect lineage, but it's a lineage nonetheless that has great achievements throughout the generations that they need to know about and they need to feel connected to.
Yeah, I love that. What popped in my head when you said that they need to know our triumphs and trials.
Yeah. Yeah.
They need to know.
Yeah.
I ain't perfect. I mean, I look perfect, but I ain't perfect.
Well,
and my kids will now point that out like, ma'am, come here. Let's chit chat,
Well, generationally, we have more resources. We should be better. We should be able to extend and offer up alternatives that our folks just didn't have access to, or it just wasn't as common. And most of the people, they did the best that they could with what they had.
Yeah, exactly. I take nothing from it. My mom worked went to school, she got her degree, she did all the things, but she did what she knew. There was no lack of love. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But it was just, when you think back. But I still pick up the phone, call my mama. Still, we still talk. We still, because
she was trying to prepare you for this world.
Exactly.
In the best way that she knew how. And as imperfect as it may have been, it wasn't for lack of love. It was for love. It was the fact that it was trying to prepare you for what this world had in store for you.
And what they had experienced, right? Because my mom was born in 1937.
Yeah.
So she walked through some things. So it's like, hey, I don't want you to have to repeat the mistakes of the past. But here's the beauty now, Baxter, because we have those resources, because we have agency, because we have audacity, we can now tell the truth in the moment. My mother couldn't tell me half the things. She could not articulate that, just like you said, because I don't want to scare you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to prepare you.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, listen, let me tell you what's about to go down.
Yeah.
It's a different time,
It's a different time.
And I appreciate, I love living in a time such as this. Yes, it's not perfect, right? But now me and you get to write stories.
Yes. We get to share in a way that the folks prior didn't have. And exactly. I was talking to a friend and recently about just the craziness that's going on in the world. And it's like, as troubling as it is, and as it can feel like there's like this cloud hanging over us, what better time to be alive and to be able to do something about it. I really like our odds. I really like when I wake up every day. I really like the odds that I have to go out and help people make a difference. And make an impact on this world. So
and this is my year. We talked about this, in our friendship, about me having a word of the year. And my word this year is peaceful, full of peace. You can't move me if I'm in peace. I have to give you my peace. I have to give you space for my peace. And I have been encouraging my brothers and sisters in this Black History Month, but in this time span, love drives out hate. Peace in a time of war, right? When you operate and don't give energy to the massiveness, because it's a distraction. Stay focused on what you're supposed to be doing, and you'll stay in peace. Things have been happening. And I'm like, if that makes you happy, I done been cussed out driving down the freeway. If that makes you happy, baby, go ahead, because I want you to have peace too.
Yeah.
Stay in peace.
Expert fund developer, lead advisor with Mondo Unlimited, and senior director at Avalon Healing Center, Mivida Burrus. Thank you so much for the conversation. This is Black history. This is Black present, past, and we're shaping, opening doors for the future. So, thank you for joining me on behalf of Mivida. I am Baxter E. I just want everyone who's listening or watching this to know that you are all capable. You just need to embrace your own frequency. Happy Black History Month, and until next time, peace.
Peace.
Welcome into his brain. Welcome into his frequency. Enter at your own risk. Come be at peace with me.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. Please subscribe, share, and also hit that notification button as well. Thank you so much.
Financial literacy to authentic Black history. This real rap.